What's going on, my fellow rock and rollers? Don't forget to hit the bell notification icon to be notified every time I put out a new video on my channel. With the US presidential election today, I thought the most appropriate thing for me to do was to cover the Seattle band, the Presidents of the United States of America. To a lot of people, they are a bit like garlic. Either you love them or you really hate them. Some would call their music an insult to real musicianship, or they might say their lyrics lack depth. So what caught the world's attention about this band? Stay tuned to find out. Vocalist and bassist Chris Ballew would meet guitarist Dave Dedererin in junior high while they were both attending a preppy school named Bush. They wouldn't form a band until years later, after the pair attended college and returned to Seattle and jammed for the first time at a Bush alumni function. Ballew had previously played in a punk-busker band named Egg, who wrote a lot of songs that would eventually morph into President's songs, most notably the track Naked and Famous. And Chris Ballew would even live with alternative rock artist Beck in the early 90s in Los Angeles, and would play live shows with him as a multi-instrumentalist. It would be those gigs that helped shape his belief about live performances, as he would tell Spin magazine in 1996, "I dislike the tone of the band. I like to reach out and take care of the audience, and Beck was not interested in taking care of the audience at that point, so that didn't work out for me," he'd say. Lacking a drummer, the duo initially played several shows in late 1993 under the moniker The Lo-Fis, The Dynamic Duo, and Pure Frosting, before landing on the name The Presidents of the United States of America. It was after finally settling on a name the duo became a trio in December of 1993 when they added drummer Jason Finn. Finn, for his part, was also playing in another band at the time named Love Battery, who was already signed to a recording label, Atlas Records. And he would leave Love Battery in 1995 and would also play drums for two other big Seattle bands, including the Fastbacks and Skinyard. By early 1994, the trio recorded a 10-song cassette named Froggy Style in just one day. They would sell the record at live shows, and Finn was selling cassette tapes from behind the bar at the Comet where he worked. Unlike a lot of bands from Seattle who use their difficult life experiences to shape their sound and music, Presidents weren't full of angst, as Ballew would tell Spin magazine in 1996. "I don't really have much to say. I've had a really good life. I've had the room and space and freedom to be imaginative. I haven't had anyone close to me die. I haven't had any real hard times, so I feel more productive to dwell on good things," he'd say. The band's music would be heavily influenced by the likes of Boston, Nazareth, Cheap Trick, The Beatles, and ELO, while also harking back to the famous Seattle bands of the 60s, including the Sonics, the Fabulous Wailers, and the Kingsmen. President's music was also notable because Ballew and Dedererin would play bass guitar and git bass, which are regular guitars with special modifications. For example, Ballew's instrument had 2 bass strings, which he would play bass parts on, and Dedererin's instrument had 3 guitar strings, which he used to play guitar parts. Presidents would pretty much be the antithesis of the so-called Seattle sound, which was synonymous with being dark, moody, and gloomy. The band's music was much happier in comparison. Dedererin would tell Spin magazine in 1996 that the Seattle sound was misunderstood, saying, "The grunge thing is a total anomaly," claiming Seattle is more closer to Louie Louie than I Hate Myself and I Want to Die. While many people think of Sub Pop records when Seattle comes to mind, in fact there was another record label which was even older in the city named Pop Llama, which had been around 4 years longer. Pop Llama would put out the band's self-titled debut album in 1995, and Presidents would eventually sign to Columbia the same year, who would reissue their debut album later on in 1995. The band's debut album would be certified triple platinum in America thanks to the strength of singles Lump, Peaches, and Kitty. The band's songs were definitely lighthearted compared to their Seattle contemporaries, with songs like Naked and Famous being a biting commentary on the superficiality of Los Angeles, while tracks like Kitty are a savagely funny tribute to feline codependency, while the song Stranger was inspired by the classified personal ads from the Seattle weekly newspaper The Stranger. The band's most famous song, Peaches, has often been speculated about. Chris Ballew would say the song was about a girl he had a crush on who had a peach tree in her yard. He sat under it and waited for her to get home so that he could tell her that he liked her. The woman was named Mary Lou Lord, who also happened to date Kurt Cobain before he met and married Courtney Love and Nirvana blew up. The band also seemed to attract a wide variety of people, much to the surprise of its members, with the band's drummer telling the Miami New Times in 1996, In Seattle, we played bars mostly, so our crowds were late 20s people. We didn't even think kids would buy our record. We figured kids would think, there's no way I'm gonna get laid if I own this record. But then MTV started playing us all the time, so I guess that made us cool, he'd say. The band was even asked to be on Saturday Night Live in 1995, but it just so happened that Chris Ballew's wedding night was the same day, and he declined the invitation. The following year, the group would release their follow-up album titled 2, which would go gold but fell short of the sales of their debut album. And from 1995 to 1997, the band toured extensively to support their first 2 releases, and the band also recorded a cover of the Buggles track Video Killed the Radio Star for the Adam Sandler movie The Wedding Singer. And while things were looking up for the band, the long time on the road would take a toll on its members, more specifically frontman Chris Ballew, who by the end of the year wanted to call it quits. Ballew had his first child and he wanted to spend more time at home, with his frontman telling the Seattle Times, "I wasn't feeling the magic anymore. I wanted a different life where I didn't have to go out on the road to make music anymore." And the band would play a farewell show in January of 1998 to say goodbye to their fans, while also donating proceeds from the show to charity. A few months after breaking up, the band's label would issue another album, a compilation record titled Pure Frosting, which featured 2 cover songs that had previously been used in the movie The Wedding Singer, and their cover of Cleveland Rocks for the Drew Carey Show. Each member would go their separate way and pursued other musical projects, with Dave Dedererin unsuccessfully auditioning for Weezer. The band's hiatus would be pretty short-lived, as the members would reconvene and team up with Seattle rapper Sir Mix-a-Lot of Baby Got Back fame to form a short-lived group called Subset. While they would record some songs together and tour, the project would be over by the year 2000, as they would split due to musical differences. The same year, the band members would reunite using the moniker The Quitters, since their old label Columbia Records owned the rights to the band's name. The band soon discovered another band already had dibs on the name The Quitters, so they were able to buy back control of their name from Columbia, and they would release the record Freaked Out and Small, which would mostly fly under the radar, only selling about 25,000 copies. The album would be released on label Music Blitz, which was a relatively small label which quickly went belly up, and the band also opted not to tour extensively or do much promotion for the album. The band once again called it quits for a few years before reforming again in late 2002 and creating their own indie label, as well as releasing their 4th album titled Love Everybody. The band's own label gained the rights from Sony to sell their debut album and re-released Freaked Out and Small with various bonus tracks the same year. And after discovering how difficult it was to manage a record label, the band quickly scrapped their business venture. The band would go on to release several more albums in the subsequent years, while also losing guitarist Dave Dedererin. He would be replaced by fellow musician Andrew McKaig, and Dedererin would go on to work for Amazon. And by November of 2016, which also happened to coincide with the last presidential election in the United States, the band announced that they were once again done, with frontman Chris Ballew putting out a statement claiming, "You have noticed that presidents of the United States of America has been quiet since the summer of 2015, and here is why. It's not really that we are old, it's just time to move on. Creative interests change and mutate, and I'm just trying to follow my instincts and do what thrills me most, and part of that is moving on," he'd say. And you guys are maybe wondering, with a name like the Presidents of the United States of America, was the band ever political? Well, in fact, they were, dating back all the way to 1994, as they would campaign for various Democratic candidates, including Bill Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and countless others. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. If you guys have suggestions for future topics, let me know in the comment section below. Take care.